My ex told me that the only thing I could offer him was sex. This is normal. I met Jake on a warm April evening, the kind where the air feels alive with possibilities. The local art gallery was hosting an opening night, buzzing with people who seemed to relish the culture of wine and abstract art. I was one of them, genuinely fascinated by the chaotic swirls and vibrant colors that adorned the canvases. There he was, standing alone in front of a particularly striking piece of storm of colors that seemed to pulse with emotion. His intense gaze was locked on the painting, his expression thoughtful and absorbed. I don't know if it was the wine or the energy of the place, but I felt a pull towards him, like a magnet drawing me in. With a mixture of curiosity and courage, I approached him. We started talking about the painting, which quickly evolved into a deeper conversation about art, life, and everything in between. Jake was 28, exuding a confidence that was intoxicating. He had a successful career in tech, drove a sleek car, and lived in a stylish downtown apartment. At 24, I was finding my way in the marketing world, living comfortably in my own apartment across town. Despite the apparent differences in our lives, we connected instantly. There was an undeniable chemistry, a spark that felt promising and exciting. Our first date was straight out of a movie. Jake took me to an upscale rooftop restaurant with stunning views of the city skyline. The food was exquisite, the wine flowed freely, and our conversation was electric. It felt like the world had shrunk to just the two of us, surrounded by the glittering lights of the city below. I offered to split the bill, but Jake insisted on paying. "I enjoy treating you," he said with a charming smile, and I didn't argue. It felt nice to be pampered, and he seemed genuinely happy to do it. This became our routine. Jake always paid for our dates, whether it was a fancy dinner, a spontaneous weekend getaway, or a simple brunch at a local cafe. I appreciated his generosity, but I never took it for granted. I was financially independent, with a steady job, my own apartment, and my own car. I could afford to pay my way. Whenever I offered to cover the bill or split it, Jake would wave me off with a smile, saying he enjoyed taking care of me. Our relationship blossomed into a series of exciting dates, scenic road trips, and cozy nights at his apartment. We developed an easy rhythm, a natural flow where everything just felt right. We spent hours talking, sharing stories about our pasts, our dreams for the future. We laughed about silly things, teased each other, and enjoyed our time together. Some of my favorite moments were the quiet nights curled up on his couch with takeout and Netflix. There was no need for fancy outings or extravagant gestures, just us being ourselves. Jake often complimented me, telling me how much he enjoyed our time together, how he loved my company. I felt cherished and valued, basking in the warmth of his affection. Yet, there was an undercurrent of something I couldn't quite identify. Occasionally, Jake would make offhand comments about how I didn't cook much or how he was always the one paying for things. At first, I laughed them off, thinking they were harmless jokes, but over time, they started to sting more. One evening, as we lounged on his couch, sipping wine and watching a movie, Jake turned to me with a serious expression. "You know, sometimes it feels like the only thing you offer me is sex," he said, his words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. I stared at him, stunned and hurt, trying to make sense of what he had just said. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice small and shaky. He sighed, setting his glass down and leaning back. "I mean, I pay for everything. I take care of all our dates. You don't really cook, you don't contribute financially, and it feels like the only thing you bring to the table is sex." His words cut deep, reducing our relationship to a transactional exchange. Didn't he see all the other ways I contributed? I wasn't just a passive recipient of his generosity. I had my own life, my own career. I didn't need him to take care of me financially. I had offered to pay more than once, but he always insisted. "Jake, I could afford to pay for every single date we've been on," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've offered to split the bill, but you always insisted on paying. I didn't think it was a big deal." He shrugged, looking nonchalant. "I know, but it just feels like I'm doing all the giving. What else do you have to offer?" His words made me feel like he was dismissing all the non-material things I brought to our relationship: the emotional connection, the time we spent together talking, laughing, cuddling, Wasn't that worth something? Jake, relationships are about more than just money, I said, my frustration spilling over. We spend time together, we share experiences, we're intimate. That's what relationships are about, not just who pays for dinner. He didn't seem convinced. I just feel like you could do more. You could cook for me, help out more. I'm always the one taking the initiative. I felt a pang of guilt, mixed with a surge of anger. I wasn't some 1950s housewife. I had my own life, my own responsibilities. I didn't see why I had to conform to some outdated notion of what a girlfriend should be. I did what I could, in my own way. I brought him food, I supported him emotionally, I made him laugh. I thought that was enough. The rest of the evening was tense. We didn't talk much, and I left feeling confused and hurt. Over the next few weeks, I tried to process what he had said. I cooked for him a few times, trying to show that I was willing to make an effort, but it felt forced. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to prove something. The dynamic between us shifted. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, trying to live up to his expectations while also trying to stay true to myself. One evening, as we were having dinner at his place, the topic came up again. I appreciate that you're trying, Jake said, but I still feel like you could do more. I couldn't take it anymore, Jake. I've been trying to meet you halfway, but I don't understand why you keep bringing this up. I offered to pay, I bring you food, I'm here for you emotionally. What more do you want from me? He looked at me, his expression unreadable. I don't know. I just feel like something's missing. I felt a lump forming in my throat. Maybe it's because you're not seeing everything I do as valuable. Maybe you're only focusing on what you want, and not appreciating what I'm already giving. He didn't have a response. We sat there in silence, the distance between us growing. I realized then that no matter what I did, it would never be enough for him. He had this fixed idea of what a partner should be, and I didn't fit into that mold. I felt like I was being judged, not for who I was, but for who I wasn't. Our relationship ended shortly after that. It was a painful breakup, but also a liberating one. I realized that I deserved someone who appreciated me for who I was, someone who saw value in the intangible things I brought to the table: my warmth, my companionship, my love. I learned that relationships aren't about keeping score or meeting someone's checklist of expectations. They're about mutual respect, understanding, and valuing each other's contributions, no matter how big or small. After Jake and I parted ways, I spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship, dissecting every conversation, every argument, trying to understand what went wrong. I talked to my friends, sought their perspectives, and slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Jake wasn't the first guy to make me feel like I wasn't enough, like my worth was tied to how much I contributed financially or domestically. I had dated others who made similar comments, albeit less directly. There was the ex who constantly complained about how I didn't cook, the one who hinted that I should be more useful around the house. Each time, I brushed it off, thinking it was just their way of teasing or their quirky expectations. But Jake's words, his blunt assertion that I had nothing to offer but sex, hit me like a ton of bricks. It forced me to confront a harsh reality that I had been in relationships where my worth was measured in such narrow, materialistic terms. It made me realize that I had been internalizing these messages, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't meant for me. I had been bending over backwards, trying to meet expectations that didn't align with who I was, all in the name of love. This realization was both painful and empowering. It was painful because it made me question my past relationships, my choices, and my self-worth. It was empowering because it made me see that I had the power to redefine what I wanted in a relationship, to set my own standards and expectations. I didn't have to conform to anyone else's idea of what a partner should be. I could be myself, and that would be enough. I decided to take some time for myself, to focus on my own happiness and fulfillment. I threw myself into my work, took up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends. I traveled to places I had always wanted to visit, spent lazy afternoons reading in cafes, and indulged in the simple joys of life. It was a time of self-discovery and healing, a time to reclaim my sense of self and rebuild my confidence. As I navigated this new phase of my life, I met people who appreciated me for who I was, who valued my company and my contributions, no matter how intangible. I made new friends who shared my interests and values, who supported me and cheered me on. It was a refreshing change from the constant feeling of inadequacy I had experienced in my past relationships. One evening, at a casual get-together with friends, I met Sam. He was different from anyone I had ever dated. He was kind, genuine, and down-to-earth. We struck up a conversation, and I felt an immediate connection. There was no pretense, no expectations. We talked about our lives, our dreams, our fears. I told him about my past relationships, about how I had been made to feel like I wasn't enough. He listened, really listened, and when I finished, he said something that stayed with me. "You deserve to be loved for who you are, not for what you can provide," he said, his eyes sincere. "You're enough just as you are." His words were like a balm to my soul. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen and appreciated. Sam and I started dating, and our relationship was built on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine affection. There was no pressure to conform to any specific role or expectation. We valued each other's contributions, no matter how small, and supported each other through thick and thin. Being with Sam made me realize that a healthy relationship isn't about keeping score or meeting someone's checklist of expectations. It's about being with someone who sees your worth, who values you for who you are, and who supports you unconditionally. It's about mutual respect, understanding, and love. I felt free to be myself, to express my needs and desires without fear of judgment or rejection. It was a relationship built on trust and genuine connection, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. As I look back on my time with Jake, I realized that it was a learning experience, a crucial step in my journey of self-discovery and growth. His comments, though hurtful, forced me to confront my own insecurities and redefine my understanding of self-worth and relationships. I learned to set boundaries, to stand up for myself, and to not settle for less than I deserve. I came to understand that true love isn't about what you can offer in material terms. It's about the connection, the shared experiences, the emotional support, and the mutual respect. It's about being with someone who values you for who you are, not for what you can provide. In my relationship with Sam, I found the love and appreciation I had been searching for. He saw me for who I was, valued my contributions, and supported me in my journey. Our relationship was a partnership, a true meeting of equals, where both of us gave and received in equal measure. I realized that I didn't need to prove my worth to anyone. I was enough, just as I was, and the right person would see that and appreciate it. I didn't need to conform to anyone's expectations or standards. I could be myself, and that was enough. Looking back, I see that my time with Jake was a necessary part of my journey. It taught me valuable lessons about self-worth, relationships, and what I truly wanted in a partner. It made me stronger, more resilient, and more confident in who I was. And in the end, I found peace and happiness in knowing that I had the power to define my own worth and to seek out the love and appreciation I deserved. I learned that true love is about mutual respect, understanding, and valuing each other's contributions, no matter how big or small. So, to anyone who has ever felt like they weren't enough, like their worth was tied to what they could provide or how well they fit into someone else's expectations, I want you to know that you are enough, just as you are. You deserve to be loved and appreciated for who you are, and the right person will see that and value you for it. Don't settle for anything less.